So the barbecue was kind of your brainchild. Can you talk a little bit about how you came up with the idea and where it came from?
Sure. Yeah, the barbecue, the concept for it in its genesis, it makes it sound so serious, doesn't it? It came out of the artistic desire for me to play something different than clubs. When I was kind of I probably thought of this probably early 2000s. I did the first one that I wouldn't even consider part of the series or event in Halifax, where I was like, let's just open the club a little early and I'll serve hot dogs and hamburgers for the early people and we can play music at that part. So I was literally like flipping burgers for people getting into a club, and it was like kind of a joke. But then like later we actually, when I moved to Toronto, we decided to take it easily and take it seriously. And it was because in a club, clubs in Canada typically are only open from like 10 to 2, and it's dark, and you can kind of only play a certain amount of music. People don't go out till midnight, so the busy, fun part of the night is kind of like 12:30 to 1:30, and there's only so many songs you can play in the environment and at the time. And I have so much more music that I wanted to play, so I was like, well, let's do a day party. Let's do something early. I know it can start kind of chill and eventually get a bit busier towards the end of the night, but through the whole time we can play all different types of music. So the idea of it was really to serve the artistic desire to do something different.
Play a wider array of music, I guess. Yeah. So what were maybe some of the biggest challenges getting started in the beginning for you guys?
Well, I should preface it too by saying that I did start the whole thing with my older manager as well. So for some of the earlier stuff, some of it will be that period. But that being said, I really feel like it really took off more when me and Mark started to work together, because I was able to activate certain ideas. But some of the challenges early on, getting people to believe in what you're doing. You know, the first time we had 200 people in Toronto. It was at Steam Whistle Brewery. And it was cool. Bad, Not Good was on that one, I believe. And they were like, we're going to a barbecue. I guess we're doing a barbecue, you know? And it was like, and sort of like the idea of like selling what the party is. Like, you want me to come out at 2 or 3, you know, like, but you're like, yes, because that's the type of party that it is. Yeah. But that early hurdle, like, yeah, you want to do this big crazy party right away, but you got to realize people are people, and people kind of have to miss something first to say, I want to go to it again next year, or see pictures, the FOMO and everything, you know, it's a real thing. So it's you know, walk, don't run, you know. Yeah. And as we did the Toronto party for 3 years first, and then with the 4th year we started going to other cities, and I actually experienced that problem again when we went to other cities. I'm like, we had built Toronto up over 4 years, so I was like, when we went to other cities, like, okay, it's going to be as big as Toronto. But no, when you go to a new city, you got to kind of start at that first one again, because it's a local party. So then we realized, okay, it's better to start smaller the first time you go somewhere, even if the brand has been building and stuff like that. But yeah.
Speaking of those first ones, who were some of the first companies you guys were sponsoring with, and at what point did you start looking for that in Toronto?
Well, I've always worked tightly with Red Bull. I shouldn't say always, but for the last, let's say, 15 years, just because they've got strong music and club presence, and so they've always been a supportive sponsor. So I reached out to them as far as, do you want to get involved with it, as far as maybe paying some fees for some of the headliners or something like that. And in year 3, they actually said, we've got this big crazy bus. And my manager was like, let's use the bus. Let's put this let's put this thing to work. And lucky for us, we got to use the bus. But that the relationship with brands is really important in what we do. It helps pay for things and allows us to bring in certain acts and stuff like that. And managing brands and artists is probably a whole chat unto itself. But I feel like I've always had a good relationship with Red Bull, and they were definitely down to support it. But go where you're loved, you know. Find those people that believe in what you're doing, and start with them, and you can grow. The next year you can say, hey, we want to do this bit more. You know, can you give us more money? And they might be like, yeah, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
A little bit of show and prove, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit of show and prove. Yeah, you want to be careful about like what you agree to, but you also got to know your value as it continues to evolve. Like, the first party had 200 people, and now the party has 2,500 people. So there's a difference in what you're giving the brand or something like that. And also, we always want to make sure that we're not overtaken by a brand. I don't want this to be an entire advertisement for Red Bull or something, as much as it's present. But as an artist, you want to make sure that people are paying attention to what the event is. It's not just a, when I hear people say, "Oh, I went to the Red Bull party last night," you're like, "Damn it, it was Bastid's barbecue," and that happened in some of the early ones. And then it's like, make sure you got your own thing going on too.
Gotcha. With that in mind, do you look at or approach different brands when you're looking for partnerships, or maybe look at the ones that come in a little closer?
I'd say it's a combination of the two. Obviously, we all know that brands help, and like with sponsor dollars, you can do more things. But I think it's also important to like see how certain brands fit with your event, and also besides just the monetary, investment, some cultural investment as well that the brand could provide in a way that the brand will also their activation on site would like enhance the event as well. So like way to integrate the brand so that it's relevant to the people, but also enhances the site and like the activity that's happening. And with that in mind, like we try to seek out those brands. I think we've done an okay job and can definitely year by year like grow with them to kind of really get into the flow. Year one, they might just want to give you some money. Year two, they might have an idea that could also enhance it. And then, yeah, exactly. So we like to pick good ones and try to grow with them year after year,
Yeah, it's a long-term growth rather than trying to get in new players every time around.
Yeah, and to maintain the integrity of the party, we always think like it's about the party first, and what can we make fit it, instead of someone kind of sometimes they come with an idea that might fit it, but you don't really want to go knocking on every door and then all of a sudden you got like a condom rack or something like that, or like Nestea, or like, I don't know, like granola bars or something. You're not like, you got to be careful to preserve what your party is.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, nothing wrong with condoms, like promoting safe sex is cool.
But they came with a good idea, right?
Yeah.
So, well played. How big of a team did you guys have maybe in some of those early days in Toronto, and how's that team changed as you've taken it on the road?
Well, our team is, you're pretty much looking at it. No, but it's pretty small, and generally speaking, we have another guy, Roland, who works with us, and we have some people on site, and in the cities, each different city, we team up with someone locally, someone or some group of people. So it's pretty small, to be honest, and Fraser's back here. Hi, Fraser. Fraser helps us out in Winnipeg. But we feel it's important, a local thing, and then what we bring as well. But yeah, the team it's pretty small, and I have to give a lot of props to Mark, because he's just a really hardworking person and is really on top of organizational stuff. But we have had to grow at certain points where you're like, oh man, like literally there's only so many hours in the day, and we can only hold so many meetings and emails and all this kind of stuff. So we've delegated certain jobs at certain times. But I mean, your team is really important, and I've got a really good partner in Mark.
Small team. It's a small team. Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it. I don't know what else to say really, but I mean, the brands and partners also can kind of become team members. So you create like a web of extended, individuals who are involved in it. Not just, the team is small internally, but we try to create a kind of web of support around us.
Would you say it helps because you guys know each other so well, and like because the team is small, that there's less of worrying about what somebody else is going to think?
Yeah, I think so. And like, I think that probably in most teams, once you work together for a very long time, you kind of become one organism. If someone asks a certain approval of some sort of a site detail, I'm sure that we'd probably have the same opinion about it at this point.
So from your point of view, he was already kind of starting the barbecues before you came on board. Was it like the challenge of that one of the aspects that made you want to come on board, or?
I'd say like for a manager, when you're looking at like a pool of artists, there's probably like two types. There's an emerging or like artist, a developing artist, and then there's somebody who has, you know, been around and has something going on already. Paul was obviously already in that category, so like when we came on, it's about like enhancing the verticals that he already has, the barbecue being one of them. So it's definitely, I think, a huge opportunity to build the party's brand by virtue of that, his own brand. I think the barbecue is a unique thing in that even the name of it, Bastid's Barbecue, it's like a particular artist's property, you know? So we knew that by building the barbecue, it will also have a positive impact on his artist brand in general. But yeah, a lot of attention definitely went to amplifying the barbecue.
Maybe back to you. How much of this would you say is your time these days? Like planning this whole run, you got a few dates all across the country.
Yeah, actually, it's gone international. This year we started doing some stateside stuff. We have 4 this year in the States. Well, we did South by Southwest last 2 years as well, but then we did Philly, the Bronx, and we're doing LA and Miami at the end of the year when it's still nice weather down there.
Smart.
And not so much
Good
here.
routing.
You really only have about 4 months here: June, July, August, and September in Canada. So what's cool about the rest of the world is they get some more time, and sometimes you get the Southern Hemisphere and all that. But yeah, it takes up a lot of my time for sure. A lot of parts of the barbecue are built on personal relationships I have with artists, built and different DJs in different cities, different promoters, and managing those relationships. As fun as it is, or as awesome as it is to be texting back and forth with DJ Premier or something, or meet Maceo or something, you know, that it takes time. You know, everything's a relationship, and you know, when you have 11 of those a year, that's a lot, you know, and each one takes a certain amount, and you kind of got to be working on one. Like, even though this one just ended, Winnipeg just ended yesterday, we got to really focus on Vancouver now, because the people in Vancouver, they're like, where is it? You know, it's in 2 weeks. Okay, well, we got to make sure we roll it out. So we have, like, you know, dates on a calendar that we try to hit, like, okay, got to push it this day. You got to kind of be thinking about what people are doing in those local cities. So that's the value. That's why it's good to have someone on the ground like Fraser here to help us manage what's going on locally. But yeah, it takes up a good amount of my time. But like you said, it's like it's not all. It's kind of still moving in the direction of what I want to be doing anyway. So when I'm creating, I'm thinking about what I want to play at the barbecue, what I want to showcase at the barbecue, who's playing there, and artists I support. It's become even part of my creative process to some degree.
With that in mind, does it influence like some of the stuff that you've been doing? Like you always do. Like mixes online and stuff like that. Does it start to bleed in where it's influencing those as well?
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because, and I think any artist couldn't relate to that. Like, if you've got a show coming up, you want to do either some new material, or just like, it's like the impetus, or like it's the thing that drives you to do something. If I didn't have that, well, I would be creating, but you need something to drive it. And I'm a live show kind of person, so it definitely gives me something to work towards.
Now, how do you decide where you're going to be taking these cities?
That's a good question. I think it comes down to the personal relationships and just like just history or demand that you can sense. We use some modern analytics and stuff like that, like, but nothing too serious. But like, you can kind of tell. I mean, Instagram gives you tools that can show you where the people in the cities are, and if you look at that, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good, but it's also, that might just be people on their couch like this, you know what I mean? So you kind of got to have an idea of what's going on. But I've been touring Canada for like 20 years, so, and developing things in different places. With Winnipeg, I actually came here in 2004. I made a record with Pipskid and John Smith, and we shot videos here. And I've always had like connection to Winnipeg, and again, it's that kind of Winnipeg, Halifax, small city kind of connection, grinded, and so this was a spot that we wanted to hit. And when you actually sit down and write down on paper, there's not that many big cities in Canada. You know, you've got Vancouver, you know, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg. We'll skip Saskatoon, I guess. Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal.
And you're there.
You know, so it's not that many. So Winnipeg is up there, It's 800,000 people, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Halifax?
350.
Okay.
Yeah, it's small, but it's the only thing out there. Well, Moncton, St. John, Charlottetown, but it's 12 hours to Montreal. So
Okay. In terms of going down to the States, was it just leveraging the contacts that you already had and playing in the larger markets where you could go to 2 or 3 and they're all kind of close, like you guys are talking about?
less proximity and more just density, man. There's 350 million people down there. It's crazy, and there's a huge DJ community, and I do DJ community at these events is a big thing, and yeah, as far as sort of like social media driving some of my promotion, it is a big tool, and I do make videos for it and stuff like that. But like there's lots of DJs that want to go to these parties, and a lot of DJs are kind of stuck in the club, and they like want to go to different parties that aren't the club again.
Yeah.
And that's also one reason why we do it on Sundays, because Sundays all the DJs are off in the daytime, or whatever, most of them, and people are off. And catering to the demographic, like my parties are a bit more for older people. Like we have some for younger people as well, but like 30s and 40s is kind of our main demographic. And a lot of people at that age, they start having kids, or maybe they have a busier job, and they don't want to be in the club from 10 to 2 trying to pick up girls, or cheating on people or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's not, seriously, people stay away from that first, so they want to go to something that appeals more. So I think I strayed a little bit from the...
No. That all fits perfectly, though. It's a good insight to know that you guys went into it with kind of a demographic in mind, and
Kinda,
like
sorta.
some goals that like that maybe led to that place as well. Like I want to play whatever I want, so I can play it on a Sunday, and my friends are going to be off, so they could probably come hang out, and like all the people who work in the bar will probably be there too, and they'll appreciate something on a Sunday. It's like an industry night for the most part. But
Yeah, totally. And we want it to be organic and chill. Like we're pretty light on the promo, because we believe that word of mouth is the best way to make it something that people all get.
Yeah.
Maybe we could pour some more money into advertising and stuff like that, but we view it as a really big community. And in Toronto, there's people that have gone for like, we did our 9th year. There's people that have gone to all 9, 8, 7 of them, and it's their annual thing that they make part of it, and they look forward to it. And some of the little letters we get are just like amazing about how people talk about an event or a party, and it's just that's enough for me right there to keep going.
Creating a real sense of community. That's dope. That's really dope. What kind of information do you provide to new cities and partners when you're pitching Bastid's Barbecue to them?
I mean, it's interesting. We don't really pitch it as much as sometimes the opportunity comes to us, or a brand might say, "Hey, let's try this," and this, like, because we could do it anywhere, but you kind of got to look at it as how many people are there, what's the value, is there a good venue for it, what is the culture like there, like. Internationally, we've done them always with the Red Bull 3-style DJ competition. We always do it as like the official after party. And it's been interesting to watch, because we've done Tokyo, Taipei, Santiago, Chile, Baku, Azerbaijan, Krakow, Poland. And each of them is totally different, like the hours that you can serve liquor, or the places that you can serve liquor, and the rules are typically more lax than Canada. Canada's typically pretty tight on all that stuff, whereas it's not, it's just a little looser in some other countries, which is pretty fun, except Tokyo is a bit tighter even, Japan. But yeah, every city is different, so you kind of have to approach everyone with a clean slate, and that's why I say it's starting a bit smaller for the first one is always good, because you never know what problems you might run into, or why not just figure it out, do that dry run first, and then figure it out from there.
See. So when you guys are planning, do you plan the year in advance, or are you kind of running and gunning as you're going?
Well, we probably look at the places that we've already done the last year, and it's not like we typically cut stuff, but sometimes we have to. And for instance, Halifax, our home city, we've done it 3 times there, and honestly, it just hasn't really lived up to our expectations, and maybe that's kind of the classic like ex-girlfriend stuff, kind of like where it's like you think, it was so good, like I want to go back, and then you go back and you're like, it wasn't as good as I thought it was. Yeah, real analogies here. But it's something like that. I don't know. It's funny. It's funny. Like I love Halifax and I want to do fun stuff for the city, but sometimes you can't force it, and so and there's a number of factors to that. in Halifax in the summer, a lot of people go out and the students leave as well. So you're like,
there's
that's
a
like
lot
a
of
local
factors
thing,
that
and you might go
involve-
to exactly. And everywhere, surely in Winnipeg, there's a weekend where everyone goes to the lake or something like that.
Don't play a gig on Folk Fest weekend.
Right,
Everybody's gone.
exactly. So every city's got its own little thing like that, quirk. Yeah. So you got to kind of check that. Ottawa, we did 3 and then decided to stop, and then we add some, but we only got, again, so much bandwidth that we can handle that stuff. But when the good opportunities arise, you can take them.
Yeah.
So
do you guys have like a magic number where it's like this is ideal for us to do because we're on the road, or?
no, not really. It's just growing, and right now this is our busiest year. We do 11 this year.
Yeah.
I think last year we did 8. Yeah, so it's kind of growing by like a couple a year, and now 11. We're like, okay, well, that we might have to grow our team. We're hiring someone over the winter here to work on our next year. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Cool. When it comes to your branding for this event, like it's pretty clear, it's pretty concise, pretty consistent across.
a lot of
all
orange
them.
beards.
Can you talk a little bit more about kind of how that evolved over time with the different parties and the look and feel of the?
You mean from a promotional standpoint specifically?
Yeah.
I'd say this year has probably specifically taken a kind of a new life in terms of everything being so clearly the same. We try to roll it out with a similar look. We made the Bastid's BBQ Instagram account this year as well, which is 9th year, but I guess.
Is there any reason for?
We figured it should have its own home as opposed to flooding necessarily everything on his account, and also I think it's valuable to just grow a second account that's a specific pool of people. If we want to communicate to people about just Bastid's BBQ, we could do it there.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the growth of the imaging, like, do you guys have usual artists that you guys work with to do that, or?
Yeah, right now we have an artist, a graphic designer named Johnny Rockwell, and we've been working with him for a couple of years now, and he's kind of like our go-to guy for most things visual. Yeah, and it's beyond like the barbecue at that point. I'd consider him like part of that external web team, at this point, because it's not just the barbecue stuff he does. He also makes some of your tour posters, website. Everything's kind of integrated and has its own uniform look.
And yeah, because it all filters through him, it kind of stays in a similar vein. When I got here, you guys were back there kind of sharing everything from last night. What's that process like for you guys, like in terms of promoting on social media?
The debrief, you mean, after an event? Well, you could see Paul there on his phone 23 hours after the event, just trying to catch all those stories before they expire. Yeah. So we do try to recap it on social media through Instagram stories, make a little highlight for each city. And then we obviously always have like a photographer, videographer, who's going to give us a package of recap photos, and we'll stitch together a video for each one. And then each video has kind of a sound bed. So pretty quickly after or right before, Paul will like provide them with a minute-long audio for them to cut the video to. Yeah.
Do you guys bring your video and photo guys along with you on the road, or do you guys source locally?
Some local guns, and then in other times we just have some people. We have flown people to do it just because they're reliable and consistent, and again get the image we're going for.
Can you guys speak a little bit on some of the marketing techniques that you guys use to promote the show?
Sure, I'll talk about a couple, and then you can chime in. Well, I'd say there's obviously the standard stuff, the classic media, print press. We've done radio ads, advertising on social media, and then you can promote it. Obviously, Paul does specific routines, like you had kind of talked about, that are either city specific or maybe specific to like the headliner of that city. So there's like tapping into that DJ community that follows him, and then I think the integration of like the Bastid's hot sauce, for example, is definitely like another way of involving it at the event by collaborating with a local food provider and having them included in one of their menu items, for example, and just sort of, again, integrate and make this like a community feel. And then also selling it as merch, a hot sauce bottle lasts a while, and every time someone opens their fridge, they see his face and thinks about, the barbecue event. So it's a good like tool for that as well. And it kind of is like a promotion that lasts much longer than the 8-hour event itself,
Beats a pen.
Yeah, in the middle of the winter, someone could just open their fridge and think of the summer Bastid's barbecue.
Yeah, it goes two ways. It's either it sits in your fridge for like a year, or they hit me next week like, yo, I need another bottle. Only two types of hot sauce, people. But yeah, I mean, social media I feel in the modern day and age is just such a driver of promotion because it's interactive as well. People share it, they comment on it, they can ask questions there. I have a good Instagram base. It's kind of hard to pinpoint where you're reaching all the time, and you never know with like the algorithms and this what they're changing, and you can't rely solely on it. But I feel like it's a great pairing with just the experience in general, and that's why I say like just year over year is kind of the best thing you can do. So you just got to kind of retain. So we do digital tickets only, almost exclusively. And with that, we get email addresses from that. So the next year we come back, we send out an email message to everybody saying, here's the first go. We give them a discount on tickets so they feel valued in it. Say here's the cheapest ticket. You're gonna get it right now. In Toronto, we even let our email list know before we even tell anybody else like what's going on. And then from there, just out of the gate, you can sell tickets to the people that believe in you. And that's kind of, it goes both ways. It's like rewarding the people that support you first and early, and they get excited because they've got something exclusive. So email addresses, it sounds so archaic in 2019. They're so valuable. Like building your email list is a really important thing because the email inbox is one of the only things, your email address is one of the only things that really truly has stood the test of the digital era. You can still get people in their inbox.
Yeah, you ain't faxing nobody nothing.
Yeah, you ain't. Yeah, but you aren't sending them a message on MySpace,
Yeah,
and even now on Facebook, like Facebook inbox is not really a good place to do business. But email addresses are still very, very valuable. So don't be afraid to ask someone for their email address, and then you got to deliver in there. You don't want to spam them either. Hit it 4 days away, 3 days away, 15. You got to be careful. That's a valuable thing you got there too.
Yeah.
So.
What are some of the tricks you guys use for your email list in terms of content, other than just like, hey, the show's coming up?
Well, sometimes it's just sort of like a quick recap of all the things that we've got. Maybe we try to pick like 3 or 4 things per email, and just keep it pretty simple because we want but we kind of summarize because it's not everyone's on Instagram, not everyone's on YouTube, not everyone is in the city that we're doing stuff. So it's like kind of like a couple of quick things for cover each of the people that are interested. And here's my new song, here's my new video. Here's the upcoming dates and that kind of thing. But really, it's just, what would I like to get in my inbox if I was a fan of Skratch Bastid?
Yeah, so compiling kind of what's been going on for the most
part.
part.
Exactly.
And then in terms of cadence, you guys were talking about, like, obviously you're not going to hit them up every day, but what does that look like for you guys? Maybe when you're in show mode, or when you're in tour mode, and then when you're outside of...
Yeah, kind of like whenever you really have something to tell people up to monthly. I think monthly is kind of the limit, but then when it might get closer to a certain thing, you might want to have some kind of quick snap stuff. But it depends on the artist, and for me, I think monthly is like a max. We probably do it more like almost like every 2 months until barbecue season. We kind of do it every month or something like that. We're probably overdue for one.
I was just going to mention that also, like, knowing who is on that list. Like, you have a general list, and then there's also lists per market. So if we want to talk about the, Winnipeg barbecue, we'll probably cater to that particular list. So I guess organizing the lists as well is pretty crucial, because you wouldn't want to just get a message about something has no relevance to you. I can't go to this barbecue because it's across the country.
Mm-hmm. Speaking on that topic, do you guys use influencers in any way with your marketing, like telling certain people in markets to help get the word out specifically?
Not really. Just the artists themselves. And that even is, it's almost like we don't really ask them, but you might just like send them the flyer and be like, hey, well, check this out. Do what you want with it. But influencers, no, not too much really, to be honest. Just try to keep it pretty organic and coming from our stuff. And again, that's why like just gathering those addresses and knowing who you speak to is important, because we don't have the influencers like Firefest.
So barbecue has seen a lot of success in the last few years. Are there any new barriers or new setbacks that you've had to overcome with the growth?
Yeah, I think just bandwidth. Like this year, even the last 2 years, me and Mark both became fathers. Like we had kids right around the same time. Now he's got 2 kids, and that's just added to our regular life stuff. So with our team being so small, I think this was the year where we're like, holy smokes, I think like we probably need another person to do stuff. That being said, I don't really feel like we're drowning, but it's like if we want to continue to expand, it just comes down to like a workforce or like a partnership kind of thing. That's it.
Okay.
But also, yeah, I know what you mean, but because it's multi-city, it's like each one has their own kind of, I wouldn't even call them barriers, but we can kind of compare them, but they all have their own kind of variables as well. So it kind of isn't one answer, and they're not, I wouldn't necessarily call them barriers, but just sort of like unique quirks of each city.
Okay. Maybe for folks who are like looking at throwing their own parties or kind of growing their own party, are there some like usual ones that you're going to find in terms of growing something
like the barriers
that you'll notice and that you're going
Sure.
to have to overcome that like maybe you think are natural now and like you don't think of them after throwing parties for so long, but
yeah, well,
like flags.
Like how do you make it different every year, you know? Like that's a lot of work, because you want to give people something consistent, but you want to make it new as well. And it's just like finding the right artists that fit. 9 years in Toronto, we're like, who else can we get here? You got to keep bringing. Well, something that we do is it's fun with the cities is like Maceo is such a good fit for the barbecue because he's just the positive, jolly, dope DJ from De La Soul. You could bring him to any city, so we know that like he's a reliable person that we can call again and be like, "Yo, Mace, you want to come rock this party in Winnipeg?"
Wild card.
I'm there, and it's like, okay, cool, right? Yeah. And DJ Newmark is kind of similar. He played here earlier last year, and like Biz Marquis. Also super. These guys and Jazzy Jeff, DJ Premier, they love the barbecue. They always have a good time. So when I call them, they're like, if it fits my schedule, I'm there. So like that type of stuff can help me. And then if I try to one city, and if it fits the party, I know I can try to bring it somewhere else. So that's kind of fun too. But I think the barrier with the growth is like, how do you make it better but maintain what it is? You got to kind of look at what your party, what makes people want to be at your party, and what makes you happy to do it. And then you were like, okay, how can I grow that? How can I scale that up a little bit without losing the essence of the party, which to me is just that it's a good community vibe thing. Yeah.
There's a little bit of like reading the crowd like you would as a DJ, but now for scheduling the acts. So that's dope.
You got it.
How do you? How would you say you guys keep your fans engaged in between seasons?
That's a good question, but like I think also because they sometimes we'll do like just little throwback content or something. I hate the word content, but throwback stuff. But really, it's actually kind of nice to have the break of time, because when it comes back, you get excited for it. It's like a seasonal thing. So you don't necessarily need to hammer it out, I don't think, because it's so tied in with just what I'm doing artistically anyway. It just, eventually I'll just start talking about the barbecues again, and then they'll be like, oh, damn, it's barbecue season, like maybe in like February or March. I mean, we're talking about it all year round, but yeah, it's kind of nice to give it a break and come back with something. But that's why we started the second account, because then it's like, then you're just reaching the people for that party. And but
in the earlier days, was there anything that you guys were doing like when you're doing that, growing from like 200 people in your home city to like now we want to keep and growing and growing and growing, and like were you interacting with folks more then, would you say, as compared to now?
No, I don't think so. And again, I think it's just the year over year thing that just we like the pace that we go at. That being said, like we're open to different ideas. I just think like, and that's probably what's exciting about us bringing on someone else more frequently is just everyone brings something to the table, and sometimes it can be the most casual thing that someone says to you, like, "Hey, I really think you guys should have T-shirts," and then you're like, "Okay, let's try that." Or like someone that's there, like, "I've been to your barbecue 6 years. You know what you're missing? Vegan options." You know, you're like, "Okay, you better buy at least 100." It's funny, but you listen to people, and because it is a community and smaller thing, listen to people. They like. One happy person can bring out 20 people. You know what I mean? So I remember the first time I realized that barbecue had legs, like had some longevity. I was walking on the street on Queen Street in Toronto, and this is when I had just, maybe 2 years after I moved there, and someone was like, she's like, "Are you Skratch Bastid?" And I was like, "Yeah, baby." I know. I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "It's like, hey, I just want to tell you, I've gone to your last 2 barbecues, and it is my favorite party of the summer, and I'll keep coming to them as long as you're doing them." And it was just like this really like short conversation, and it was with the girl that I didn't know otherwise. Like, I think I remember kind of, but just like it was just a really like authentic, and it was exactly what I was going for. That it was just her favorite party of the year, and I'm like, okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, exactly. So then, and I remember like even like maybe 2 years ago or something, I ended up like seeing her and her friend at a party, and then like sat down and told this story, and like we had this chat, and then she's like, "Yeah, like, I've been to everyone," and it was like really cool. But like, don't be afraid to like be super grassroots with it and ask that girl like, "What do you want to do at the party? What do you like? What don't you like?"
Yeah.
That feedback is super important, and sometimes it's hard to put yourself on the other side of the stage, but you do got to remember from that perspective too. So ask questions, don't be shy.
That's dope. And I think like another thing that you guys maybe haven't been saying outright is like just being consistent. The fact that you've been at it for 9 years and like treat it like a craft and really make sure that every party is a great party, and a community-based party, even if it's small, goes a long way in those communities that you're touching.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we do it because we do love it, and it fits really well with what I'm doing. And I made the party that I wanted to play. It still never gets away from that thing that it's the party that I want to be playing. And it's kind of like you make your favorite gig. So if you be careful what you start, because you're going to have to kind of continue to do it. So
looking at other parties around the city, is there anyone that you guys see to look for inspiration and what they're up to
in Toronto or in Winnipeg?
Just in
anywhere?
general, yeah.
Well, we talked.
So.
I'm playing at the Do Over in Portland, which Do Over is a party that started in LA, and they just posted some casual videos of people in the afternoon playing really dope stuff too. And Do Over's been doing it, I think, 1 year longer than we have, which is kind of hilarious. But Do Over is a great people to follow. As far as day parties go. Fool's Gold Day Off, FG Day Off. Have you played that? I haven't played one yet, but I had A-Track at one of my shows, so I'm waiting for the call. No, but it's been cool to see him evolve and do some similar stuff, and who else? I guess Mad Decent Block Party was one that doesn't go on really anymore, but they had one. And you can watch all the other things. Like, don't be afraid to look at other people's parties or go. Well, first of all, go to other people's parties. That's a very important thing. You can't throw a party and expect people to come to yours if you don't go to theirs. You got to hit the streets. You got to go to your boys' party and be like, "Oh, it's cool." You got to go to this girl's party. This is really cool. And you got to see where you fit on the spectrum, because like 9 years in, you're not at the first part anymore, but you still got to be a part of that community that's there, and you got to support them and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important to keep your head up. And as busy as the night might be, I might be like, all right, I got to go out tonight and I got to hit these 3 parties. I'm home for one night, one Friday night. I got to go see what's going on, because you can get out of touch really quickly.
I think that's great advice. Definitely go out and see everybody else. I think that's it for event maybe based stuff, but I kind of want to talk to you about going to Jazzy Jeff's retreat and what that experience is like, if you can speak on that a little bit.
Sure. So Jazzy Jeff has a thing called the Playlist Retreat, and what it is essentially is he just invites people to his house. It's kind of crazy. He's got like like a 6-acre property in Delaware, which is 45 minutes outside Philly, and he has a bunch of RVs, and you basically camp at Jazzy Jeff's house. It's basically Jazzy Jeff camp. But what it is it's almost like just like people all in Jeff's circle, or like, which is a really wide stretching circle, songwriters, players, rappers, DJs, and then he gets brands like Serato, Roland, songwriters STEM, or he's Ableton. He's got so many people, like basically like an extension of all his contacts and how he can kind of share them with everybody. And it's amazing. I mean, Jeff is one of my biggest inspirations, like on a human level as well as just a music level. But yeah, it's his 5th year doing that, and he says he got the idea from what we were doing with Red Bull 3 Style, which is like this kind of week-long camp where it's all about DJing, and you can get deeper in the levels of the game than you can at any one event. And it's incredible. This year he had like 112 people. There's like, like Kenny Gamble from Gamble and Huff, Sound of Philadelphia Records, the people that basically created disco, and he gave a chat, and De La Soul was there. Shad did the interview with De La Soul. Redman was there. Just Blaze, Questlove. Last year J. Cole came. It's just like, who's going to come over to Jazzy Jeff's house? This is like, yeah. So that's a really cool experience, and it's cool to see him take the initiative to be like, how can I share my group of contacts with everyone? And something I learned from Jeff, like Jeff is like one of the most generous people in the world. It's like, as an artist, sometimes you want to hoard your ideas, and it's just like, you just got to get that shit out there. Like, you can only do so much with it. Next person can do some, and if it comes from you, it's always come from you. But Jeff would never try to take the credit for it, but I'll give Jeff anything he needs. You know what I mean? It kind of works like that.
In terms of going to those things, is there like an education portion? Like, do you like the super friends of DJs? Do you guys all get into a room and trade tips and tricks, or what does that look like?
Like the whole week is like that.
Yeah.
But it'll be from like a music level to a career level to life, mental health, technique, but more than anything, just being around people and seeing how they work. Leaning over shoulders or just checking people out. You'll pick up something in anything you want. The circle is crazy. Like, it's pretty cool to be around. But I think as an artist, it's just really important to always be learning. Mm-hmm. And Jeff is the first. Like, when something comes out, he wants to be the first person to try to use it, and he wants to know, can he add it to his
repertoire?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, dope.
And he's been in the game like 35 years.
On the topic of education, you have your own kind of education world.
Yeah, Skratch School.
Skratch School.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And what
you're
doing there?
Yeah, Skratch School, like, what I realized, like, there's a lot of people that want to learn about DJing, but I don't really have the extra time to be like, let's go one-on-one. So I decided I wanted to do something like a school where I do, like, here's a video for it, and like, here's how you do this. So instead of each of the individuals asking me, I'll do one, and then I can point them to that video more or less. But it became a community. It also comes to that thing where you want to talk directly to the specific people. Not everybody on my email list or my Instagram wants to learn about scratching. Maybe they're just happy hearing it, So you kind of got to isolate those people and take them out and show them something different. So Skratch School was a chance to sort of like have people post deeper stuff or connect on more specific things. And but that came from my desire to want to share. I love doing. Before we came here, I did the Studio 393 thing, and it's just like I love watching people get it. And it's like, if you want to, scratching's kind of a funny art form. Like, you got to find a way to keep it alive, And if it stays alive, then I'm going to stay alive as an artist too. Because if I just hold myself up and I'm the only person doing it, then people aren't going to want to do it. And then next thing you know, it's going to be, it's not going to exist. I mean, scratching's already not really on songs anymore. Like, you don't really hear scratching on a lot of stuff. The odd thing, you hear it every now and then. It's kind of cool. But you know what I mean? Like, it's up to me. So that's my little side thing. I wish I had more time to do it. Again, the whole having a kid thing was like, that kind of cut into some of my side hustle hobbies.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. In terms of connecting with the community, talk about Studio 393 and like going down there to hang out with the kids and teach them stuff. Do you try to do a community-based, like reach out to the community in every city that you're in?
Not specifically, but if there is something there that's going on, I love to do it. And I've done Studio 393 3 times now, and it's always fun, man. People come back. I just love connecting on that level. And A, some people can't get in the club. B, some people can't afford it or something. It's just nice to do an extra thing when you're in a city to connect with the local, and then to stimulate it there. Cause I did when I went down actually me and my wife were on our honeymoon in South America, and I got an opportunity to teach at a few spots that we were going around. So in Bolivia and Colombia, I did sessions, and it was amazing. And I'm never there, but when I was there, I was like, let's make this count. You know what I mean? Let's go and I do sessions, and it was we'd have 200 DJs. You could tell they were just so hungry for stuff, but they weren't really getting much stuff down there. And I tried to speak in my most chill English possible. Still had a translator, and then I'd just show them some techniques, and they'd also talk about the challenges they have, in the club, oh, maybe no one wants to hear scratching. I'm like, well, that's up to you to figure out how to deliver it. But just connecting on that level was it really, for me, it's a desire of mine. I really want to do it. So how do I do it? Okay, here's this thing that's Skratch School. So now managing that is its own thing.
Yeah, it's another lane that that you can put.
Yeah, and responsibility,
Yeah.
So right now it's I haven't done a whole lot for it in the time being right now, but it's there.
It's there, yeah.
It's there.
And it's always there to come back to.
Yeah, but then, you got to be careful because people might want something and you're not I don't have time, so you got to be careful what you commit yourself to, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you have any, parting words? Or I don't know how we are doing for time. If
I
they'll
don't know.
let me keep picking your brain, I don't know.
7. Was it 7 or 7? What is? Yeah, is there any questions?
Any questions in the crowd?
Yes, sir.
First off, thanks for doing this. We all appreciate it. It's wonderful to get these thoughts and perspectives. Thank you for the jewels.
My pleasure.
I'm really curious how the economics of this evolved over time. I love that it was your passion to play a different venue and do something, for the older folks, which I appreciate. But I'm really curious how the economics of it evolved over time. If it was, close to profitable when you started. I mean, obviously flying people around to cities gets expensive quickly. And, just how it would compare, via just having that residency in a club where you've got that locked in revenue source.
Sure. I think while from the outside the barbecue might look like a crazy different event, it is a lot like throwing a night. The door counts, selling tickets at the door. We collect the money at the door or whatever. So that's a first thing, but then we also can do the brands. Certain brands can help pay for things like we were saying earlier, but it still is a lot like a club night kind of thing. The amount of people through the door can help fund everything else. So year over year, a lot of bigger festivals actually plan on losing money the first 3-4 years they do stuff. It's crazy. We're not really on that level, but we kind of managed it from smaller stuff and let it grow year over year with an expectation of what it might be next year based on maybe how it goes. And I wouldn't even call it necessarily exponential, but when we pop up other cities, they all go like that too. So it wouldn't have been so much like that as much as it's kind of been almost 200 people extra each year almost thing or something, 200 or 300 extra people each year. So that's kind of scaled. In Toronto, there's the GTA is 6 million people. So it's, and in Winnipeg, it's only 800,000. So it's you can't expect them to grow at the same rate, but you just want to see it kind of year over year. With us doing it in different cities, Toronto is kind of our main breadwinner. It can help support other stuff. So because the Toronto one for us makes us the most money, it can help pay for other ones that might need the stimulation. I don't even know. They might need an extra boost. So you're okay, well, you consider that an investment for the years to come, and then that can help with that.
I'll just add that with a night, there's a lot of the same things like Paul's saying. I'd say there's probably just more line items with throwing a bigger event. And there's also the help from like sponsorship revenue. So, we'll try to do deals that would be like for nationwide, kind of like a per date fee, if you will. It's like a partnership fee. So with that in mind, it kind of gives us a cushion in some smaller markets where maybe the revenue generated from ticket sales or bar aren't substantial. Because, these brands, obviously, they want to be part of the biggest events. So when we have something like Toronto to kind of be the pillar, a brand will want to be involved, and we could then basically dictate the idea that this is more than just Toronto. This is a nationwide event. We want to keep things consistent. That goes for visuals as well as the brand partners. It helps if everyone you go to, you're working with the same brands. So basically, they kind of want to get involved because of the big ones, but then they need to get on board for the whole thing, and that helps us kind of take it to different places.
Is that that rounds it out? Nice. Yeah. Well, and all I can say about sort of the budget of it started grassroots, and we never lost our shirts. Like the first year, we like literally probably made $200 or something like that. That was fine. A lot of people lose money in their first year, so that's like. But more than anything, it was just the party that we wanted to be doing, and I think that's always driven everything. It's just like, want to continue to make it. Once it doesn't get fun, you don't want to do it anymore. And I can honestly say I've never not had fun at a barbecue. If that's an understatement. I'm still passionate about it. Yesterday was still awesome to me. Like still, end of the day yesterday, feeling great. You know what I mean? And when we got like the lineup was crazy. Like Brother Ali and then Mace, and then like Macio's bugging out to Brother Ali, and Macio's playing, and then Brother Ali's like, "This is crazy," and you just see that, like you see them passionate, and then Mace is done, and Mace is like, "My brother, like we get to do this, man. This is the highlight of my year, man. Every year I love to do this." He's like, "Thank you," and I'm like, thank you, Maceo. Wow, like it's awesome to connect with people on that level. So I'm proud that I can give them a gig they want to do, and yeah, it lucky for us, it's just kind of grown at a nice pace where it's remained stable. We have lost money on barbecues for sure, but they've been supported by other ones, and I think that's when you start looking at it as like a bit of a bigger business that can kind of support it, because as a smaller artist, it's easy to like get overwhelmed by losing money and stuff like that. But the biggest companies in the world, like their margins are really small, actually. When you think of it that way, and there's like spending crazy percentages just to make a really small percentage of money. And when you're small, that small percentage is almost no money. So you kind of don't realize that you actually fall into a similar structure as those people. It's just that the numbers are. The decimals way over, you know what I mean? So I try to stay somewhat business focused as well as the art, but when it comes down to it, there is the business side of it that you have to take care of, and yeah, really good question. I hope we covered it.
What's up, guys? How long have you guys been working together?
Me and Mark have been working together 4 years now. Actually, at the end of this month, it'll be 4 years.
Yo, and how? Because I feel like you have maybe more than other Canadian hip hop or people that are in like the hip hop world. You have like pretty close ties to a lot of like U.S. like bigger U.S. Like icons and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, how did you go about maintaining those relationships? You know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong. They seem genuine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, they definitely. Yeah.
What happened in Ottawa? Like, why did you have to shut that?
Sure. I got a text this morning about that now. Yeah. So again, I don't necessarily. Well, I can't say that I don't like specifically pick people that I want to play the barbecue, but personal relationships always help. So I may meet people at Jazzy Jeff's retreat and say, "Hey, Redman, like I want you to come play barbecue." So I'm fortunate through I am fortunate through the playlist, and Red Bull 3 Style is also another dope event. But something like South by Southwest, A3C, which I've never gone to, but things like that, like where you can meet other like-minded artists and showcase. We did the barbecue at South by Southwest, so now people come to it and they would. I think the barbecue, like I say with Maceo, he loves playing it, and these people, they really love playing it, but sometimes they have to be shown what it is the first time to get it, but that's kind of twofold. Also, that's why the videos and recap photos and stuff are so important, because if I showed those people, they're gonna be, yo, I gotta get on one of your parties. That's what Kid Capri was like. Kid Capri was like, yo, when am I getting on your? He bugged me for like 3-4 years, you know, and it's like he's coming to me. So I think that showcasing, having those things that you never know like who's watching you, but if you continue to put yourself out there, the good things will happen. If you continue to do your thing and continue to get it out there. It's hard to really say just keep taking shots in the dark, but if you're building a consistent thing that keeps growing, people will start to see it, and someone will tell someone like yeah, in the Bronx, like Kid Capri was like, yo, everyone's talking about the barbecue in the Bronx, you know, and I'm like, that's crazy. You know, like it's cool, like he'll hear word of mouth or something, and then like and then like at the barbecue, Kid Capri was like, I was talking to Redman about it, and then Kid Capri was like, yo, you got to do that party, Red. It's crazy. You know, and it's like that. So I can't say that there's like a formula for it, but it's just that keeping consistent in the concept of the party. And once you do it over a certain amount of time, people are going to see that it's a real thing. And then, so, and then, but also, yeah, things like South by Southwest or those are cool things to build with people. But again, it kind of comes back to doing your thing and finding like-minded people for sure. And what happened in Ottawa? One of the first reasons we went to Ottawa was I knew someone at this Ottawa, like the stadium where the Ottawa GGs play, or the Ottawa, what's the CFL team called? Yeah, Redbacks, that's what it is. And so we did the first two in Ottawa in the stadium, which is kind of hilarious. We brought that little bus, which ended up looking like a dinky on the stadium, and like, but it was kind of cool because I knew someone. Again, a lot of it comes down to like personal relationships, and so I knew someone at the stadium, and we wheeled it in, and that didn't really work for 2 years. And then the third year we did it with this Caravive. We collaborated with a Caribbean festival out there and did Caravive, and the place got like flooded. And then it got reopened, but everyone thought the place was it was in an island, sort of like a low island area, and it got flooded, and then it reopened, but no one kind of knew it was just a little bit of a off year.